Hi guys, welcome to another video. So I am actually just slightly irritated right now because I literally did record more than a half of this Capricorn video already earlier this morning, and then a lot of reasons meant that I got interrupted. So I tried to add this little extra segment onto the end of the first clip, and I don't know how to do it on this recorder app, so I'm just starting over again. So I'm a little annoyed about that, but it's okay because I enjoy talking about astrology, so I guess I'll just do it again. It will be fine. I was considering just uploading them as two separate videos, like two parts of this Capricorn character description, but then I thought, no, I might as well just put it all in one video. I'm not sure if that was the right choice or not, but there we go, that's what happened. So anyways, yeah, so this is the character description video for the Capricorn sign. So, first thing to know about the Capricorn sign, I can say a lot about the Capricorn sign. I feel like I know them quite deeply and quite well because my personal birth chart's moon sign is actually in Capricorn. So, my instincts and my deep emotional sort of reactions are in a Capricorn moon. So, I feel like I can say quite a lot about their sign and I understand them quite deeply. So just a heads up, this video might be quite a long video. I know all my videos are pretty long, but this one especially might be pretty damn long. So just a heads up there. Sorry, hope that that's okay with you lot. Um, but anyway, yeah, so Capricorn. Now, Capricorn is the last earth sign, but weirdly, they are actually the cardinal mode for the earth element. So, water and fire do follow the natural order that you'd expect, where cardinal comes first, then fixed, then mutable, but earth and air weirdly do not follow that natural order that you'd expect for some reason. So, it's a bit strange, but that's just how it is. So, even though their last Capricorn is actually the cardinal mode for the earth element. So, yeah, that is a bit odd, but oh well. So, Capricorn, they're the cardinal earth sign. So, unlike the Taurus and the Virgo, which are the other two earth element signs in the zodiac, the Capricorn does not constantly have this energy of the earth element present within their personality, within their character traits all the time. They are having to actively create it and then throw it out to the world because they're the cardinal sign. And when they are not producing this as such, they're kind of more at a baseline level. So they do not have this constant energy of Earth. They are having to make it actively because they are the cardinal mode. Now, first thing I could say, and I think a lot of people would agree about Capricorn character traits. So, out of all the Earth signs, of course, they're pretty similar to the other Earth signs, but there are obviously still some important differences with the Capricorn character. So, first thing, Capricorn is ruled by the planet Saturn, and Saturn is about um, it's technically not a nice planet, to be honest with you. It's restrictions, blockages, bad luck, physical illness, depression. The opposite of Jupiter. If you watch my Sagittarius video, Jupiter, the whole principle is that they expand and magnify everything. They're about expansion, they're about good luck, fortune, positive gains in your life, optimistic perspective on life, and they enlarge and magnify everything that it touches. Saturn is the total opposite principle or archetype to that, if you like. So Saturn is constriction, limitations, it makes everything smaller. So Jupiter, whilst Jupiter works as a magnifying glass in a sense, Saturn works as something that is an agent of constriction. It makes everything smaller. It limits things. It restricts things. It has this very serious tone to it, this stern tone to it. So because Capricorn is ruled by Saturn, they are, I would say, definitely the most serious Earth sign, the most serious sign of the whole zodiac. They're very by the book, very serious. They're quite traditional at their core. Um, and they're less stubborn than Taurus because they are cardinal, not fixed, so they are a bit more adaptable. So they're less stubborn than Taurus, and they're less critical than Virgo, but they are very traditional and they are very close-minded. They kind of good luck trying to convince a Capricorn to believe something that they don't believe already. You will need some very solid proof and evidence and facts that are very logical in order to get them to believe something that they don't already believe in. So good luck getting them to believe something. They are very, very skeptical by nature. Um, so yeah, the most serious sign. I would definitely say they're also the most hard-working sign of the zodiac. They work super, super hard. They have, though, this realistic pessimism. So obviously the sign that comes one before the Capricorn is the Sagittarius. One of the major traits of the Sagittarius is that they have this high optimism. They never stay depressed for too long, but they're so optimistic that it kind of borders on delusional sometimes. Capricorn, in a sense, is opposite to that. They are so pessimistic, but they just see it as being a realist, having realism. And they have this pessimism because it's realistic. The world is not perfect. They have a very clear perception of the real world because they're the cardinal earth sign. They know the world is not perfect, so they have this realistic sort of skepticism and pessimism. I'm guilty of this too with my moon in Capricorn sometimes, like at my core to feel a bit down too. But because of this, they can go to the extreme where they become unrealistic because they're too negative, whereas Sagittarius become unrealistic because they're too positive. So that's a major difference that happens there. Um, Capricorn can be the most likely sign to suffer from depression. Now, Capricorn is very, very resilient. Their character is very strong. No matter how many times they get knocked down in life, they get back up again and just carry on going. Similar in that sense to the Scorpio. They are very resilient, and they have a lot of endurance. That's definitely a key word that I would use to describe Capricorn. But Scorpio too, they have this determination and drive, and they are very resilient. Like they don't just feel sorry for themselves when they have setbacks and failures in life. They'll just carry on and pick themselves back up again, dust themselves off, and then they're back throwing themselves into life again, even harder than before they fell. Um, but they can also be the most likely sign to be depressed because they do have this realistic pessimism, which, if it's left unchecked, they lack optimism so much that they become depressive. So that is definitely something I could see is a possibility with Capricorn character traits. Especially I would say if your moon is Capricorn, because it is felt more on a deeper internal level if it's your moon Capricorn. So this brings me on to the fact that Capricorns are very focused on practical achievements. They are very goal orientated, they're driven, similar to Virgo in the sense that they want to create a plan in order to achieve an ultimate end result. But Virgo will do it more as in a ladder, and they will make a detailed plan on how to advance on each rung of the ladder as they make a step higher and higher toward their aim. And they sort of are more about all of the details that will make them get to that aim. They analyze every detail on the way very patiently, very methodically, to make sure they achieve what they want as the final result. But I feel like Capricorn is less about the details and the analysis in that sense. I feel like the Capricorn is more professionally about they set a goal, an ultimate goal that they want to achieve, and then they know where their current standing is, their current position is, and they will just work as hard as they can to achieve that goal. But they don't really do a step by step each rung of the ladder. Like, say they're in a job and they start at the bottom, then they want to become like an assistant manager, and then they want to become the ultimate manager, then maybe the area manager of the entire company that they work for. Um, each rung of the ladder, the Virgo will analyze what they need to do at each step in order to get further and further toward advancing in their status and getting to the top of their career path, and to become the boss. But Capricorn will just know that they want to become the boss. They won't think necessarily as much about the details on the way to getting there. They will just set a goal and work for it. Capricorn, I feel, can be definitely cold. They're colder than the other earth signs, especially the Taurus. They're a lot less warm. They're sort of every man for themselves. They can be very stern. They're very traditional. If your manager at work, for example, happens to be a Capricorn, they're going to be pretty stern. They're going to be quite serious. They're not going to bend the rules at all because they have great respect for rules and discipline. And so they are also quite bossy, like especially Capricorn Sun people, because their ego and pride is also tied in with these Capricorn traits. Capricorn Sun people, especially pronounced, is this sort of similar to a Leo in a sense. Now, of course, they're totally opposite in most ways, but they do both share this sort of ego and pride and this God complex where they do kind of look down on other people because they feel superior to everyone else. It's much less obvious with the Capricorn because they are an earth element rather than a fire element, so it's a bit more private. But Capricorn is a power sign because of Saturn. They're also patient though. Like they're not like Aries where they're gonna boss you around because they're impatient. They want everything done now, as quick as possible. They're sort of like they're driven and they're bossy, but they're also very patient because Saturn also does represent time. So they know the value of time. They know that nothing good will come quickly or easily, and they are willing to stick it out for the long haul. As I said, the key word for Capricorn, endurance. They are very, very and endurance with their time and resources too. Like they are aware that nothing good will happen to them overnight, that they're going to have to work very hard for it. Saturn is not a very nice planet, it's bad luck. So to have that as your ruler of your sign is obviously you're not going to have the best luck in your life. Like Sagittarius, I feel like, because they're ruled by Jupiter, everything for the most part comes to them fairly easily. They don't really need to work, they just have good luck. They always get recognized for their achievements. Capricorn, they're ruled by not a nice planet. It's a maleficent planet. It's not like a happy, benevolent planet. So they have bad luck. So they need to work incredibly, incredibly hard to get to this want that they have so badly, which is this desire for success and leadership over everyone else and being in control. But on the way there, it's hard for them because Saturn is not good luck. It's not like Sagittarius where they just get 100,000 things offered to them on a silver platter and they just take it, with a minimum effort. Capricorn has to work incredibly hard. I feel sorry for them in that sense because, especially if it's their sun Capricorn, they have a lot of setbacks in life. They have a lot of bad luck. Most of them have a lot of problems going on, and they still persevere and eventually become successful still against all odds. So I respect them in that sense. Capricorn Sun, though, they do like to boss people around. Now, a major difference between the Sun and the Moon in Capricorn. Now, my Moon is Capricorn in my chart. I feel like the Capricorn Moon, because obviously the Moon is a more feminine energy type, it's a lot more private too. So obviously, Capricorn Sun, you're going to be a bit more boastful. You're going to be a bit showy. You're going to show off. Like if you achieve some significant success in your life, you're going to be very proud, obviously, but you're going to show it more openly. Like you're going to drive expensive cars. You're going to be like, look, I'm rich, I'm famous, I've got money. You're going to kind of show off a little bit more because you want the respect of society and you want everyone to view you as a successful person with money, with professional endeavors. So you're going to show that off a bit more. You're going to be more assertive. You're going to be sort of like, yeah, well, I've achieved this, so I know better. They have a lot of wisdom. They are the universal spiritual sort of earth sign. They are the last earth sign. So they're the best earth sign in a certain sense because they are the most evolved version of the earth energy. So they can brag. They're kind of like, they think that they don't even like other earth signs sometimes, despite the fact they are earth themselves, because it's like they think that they are the best manifestation of earth because they are the last one, which they technically are, but it's like they can have this sort of showing off assertive sort of aura about them. Capricorn Moon is much more considerate of other people's feelings. It's a lot more caring. They're a bit more in tune with other people. They're a bit more in tune with themselves. Because it's the Moon Capricorn is going to be a lot more mellow. It's going to be a bit like they're much less assertive. They kind of more are about their own emotional security. So they don't really care so much about, I'm secure because I've got the power, I've got control over other people, I've got money, I've got a high standing, a high social position. They don't care so much about that. The Moon Capricorn's more about, well, I've got a nice bit of money in my bank account. I feel emotionally secure in myself. I've got a stable income. I've got a stable house. The sort of more basic things that will satisfy them emotionally is more what they care about. Whereas the Sun is more like they want prestige so that they can show off to other people that they've been such a successful person in their life. So that's just the difference between those two. Now, the next thing that I could say about Capricorn, though, is that their animal representative in the zodiac is a goat, but contrary to what most people believe, it's not actually just a normal goat. Like, it's actually a sea goat. So, they have a fish's tail, actually. So, it's almost like they can swim, they can dive, somewhat under the water. So, Capricorn sort of is almost like a combination between an earth sign and a water sign in a certain sense because they have this other side to them. And they are, as I say, the spiritual stage of soul evolution for the earth element. But there is kind of a paradox, I guess you could say, within the Capricorn sign because obviously they're coordinate in earth. So they are very, very grounded in the physical world, the here and now. grounded in their physical body, and they sort of are deliberately focusing on being, professional people of worldly matters, practical hands-on activities, but at the same time they have this side of them which is spiritual and is sort of opposite to their cardinal earth nature of their personality. So it's almost like when they're not coordinating this earth and they're at more of that, as I say, baseline level, because they don't always have this earth, when they're not really actively coordinating this earth and they're just a bit more neutral, that's kind of when they indulge this more spiritual, open-minded sort of side to them. And it's not like they're a dual sign. They do not have a dual personality really, but it is interesting that they do kind of have this side to them which is capable to be a bit more open-minded and a bit more speculative, a bit more sort of like into spiritual, higher truths, universal sort of things, because they are this highly evolved earth energy. Sometimes they can detach a bit from their practical go-getter in a material plane kind of attitude and focus more on this sort of more spiritual, worldly existence. So I just thought it was interesting to say that they kind of do have that. But of course, obviously, their main character traits are the opposite of spiritual. They're very much grounded in the here and now, in the real world. They are wearing the opposite of rose tinted glasses. They are completely in reality. They are by no means delusional about what the real world is. They are very knowledgeable of exactly how the real world works. Now, the thing I will say is if you have your moon in Capricorn, like I do, it's actually not a great placement to have your moon, technically speaking. And the thing is that the moon is at home in Cancer because that's the sign where it rules, it's dignified. So because Capricorn is opposite in the opposition, it actually correspondingly then it does detriment or debilitate, in other words, weaken the moon. So the moon is not fallen like it is in Scorpio, but it is in a weakened state in the sign of Capricorn. So they can struggle to be in touch with their own emotional needs. I personally don't really have that problem because I have a lot of Cancer and Pisces in my personal planet placements in my chart, and a lot of fire too, which is also kind of emotional, but more in an emotionally reactive sense than an emotional intuitive sense. But yeah, but Moon Capricorn on its own can be very much logical and closed off emotionally, and they are quite sort of, they're not really in tune with their own emotional selves. They don't really know self care physically or emotionally, if more emotionally if it's the Moon in Capricorn, if the Sun's not Capricorn as well. But it's sort of like, yeah, it's not the best placement for the Moon, but you can be emotionally closed off. You're a bit hesitant to open up to someone, but that's just the moon. The moon is not perfectly happy in Capricorn, really. There is a direct weakening as a planetary interaction if you have moon Capricorn. The sun Capricorn has no direct interaction, although the sun is a fire planet, so to be an earth sign, it's probably not overly comfortable or compatible there. But it does give this ego and pride that the sun represents, as I said earlier, it channels it into professional worldly success. So whenever they achieve a goal as a Capricorn sun person, they're going to show off the fact that they've achieved it and that they're superior to everyone else in their own mind. So that how it manifests, and then all the other Capricorn traits will be embodied if that's where your sun is. Now, another thing to say is that Capricorn can actually be the most aggressive of the Earth signs. The Taurus is the least. But the Virgo is more aggressive in the sense of critiquing people and that sort of thing, but they don't present it in an aggressive way when they're doing that critique. They're more sort of they present it more in they're trying to be helpful by making suggestions, but they can be naggers too. But Capricorn, Mars is actually exalted, in other words, strengthened in the sign of Capricorn, because again, they're in opposition to Cancer where the Mars falls. So because of that, they strengthen Mars. So that is the planet of war being strengthened. So they can be aggressive, like they are more cold, they are more aggressive because they are also ruled by Saturn, but they are realistic with it too. Like they're not just aggressive for the sake of it, like Aries. They're a lot more like they will not be aggressive unless they absolutely have to. They focus a lot on respect. They are very, very strict with respect, and yeah, they really don't take well to disrespect. The thing is though that their standards of respect are really way too high sometimes. So it's almost like they're a bit not realistic in that sense. Like, you obviously not everyone's going to give you respect because the world's not perfect and they know that. But that really pisses them off because they do care a lot about respect. But that's just that. But because Mars is exalted or strengthened, in other words, in Capricorn, they are full of energy. They have an overabundance of physical energy, and it definitely presents as stamina and endurance too. They're quite perfect for long distance running rather than sprinting, because it's more like this sustained high energy output rather than a quick burst of intense energy, which is more errors like the sprinter mentality. Capricorn is definitely a good athlete if they're channeling it into running, as in long distance running. They are this slow, sustained, and steady release of energy, but it is persevering. It lasts a very long time and it's very strong, and there's a lot of stamina. So that's that. So they have an overabundance of physical energy. Like, one of the major differences between Taurus and Capricorn actually is that Mars is weakened, it's debilitated in Taurus, detrimented. So they have somewhat of a lack of physical energy. They have a lot of stamina too, actually, because they're the bull, but they kind of can be lazy, whereas Capricorn is the opposite of lazy. Like, obviously, this is just a stereotype. It's easy to say that Capricorn never stops working and Taurus is just lazy, but that's not actually true. But Capricorn is a lot more energetic, and even a lot more than the Virgo as well, actually. Virgo's in the middle with energy, I would say, from the Earth sign hierarchy, but it's kind of like Capricorn, though, they will channel this energy more into professional success at work. Like, they are very, very focused on practicality, and they are incredibly goal orientated. They have patience, but they also have the energy and the stamina to keep going, and they channel it into work and professional pursuits in their life. That's the main, like, aspect or facet of life, if you like, where they will channel that energy into. So they are very, very sort of focused, eye on the prize, very ambitious. That's another key word you could use. Capricorn description. They are so that's how they channel their energy. That is really how they channel their energy. But they do have a lot of energy. They're the type of people who, if you're a college student, for example, and there's an exam coming up, they will not go out partying. They will not even socialize. They won't even sleep or eat anything even. They will be the student who pulls an all-nighter because they're revising for an exam. And they'll do it multiple times, like even if it's not the night before the exam, and they've still got loads of teaching time with their teachers and time to revise before the exam actually happens, they won't even sleep. They'll stay up all night revising for the exam. They're bookworms as students. They can be very, they don't have fun because they're too busy working and revising. They are definitely the type to stress themselves out over work. But this is what I mean. They have the energy to stay up all night with no sleep, revising, because once a Capricorn is focused on something, especially something practical, and they're actively coordinating this earth, gearing it toward practical real-world activities like revising for an exam or whatever, they have Mars exalted, so they are full of energy. They do not feel tired while they're doing this. They are literally putting all of their focus, and they almost have laser focus. They are so focused on one thing that they don't do anything else, and they can get into these very much workaholic modes where they are laser focused on a specific practical thing that they want to achieve, but then they can neglect self-care because they're too busy being perfect, because they have this very strong craving for admiration, and they are definitely the earth sign who the most needs this respect of the public and this validation. They are definitely the most, they place the most importance out of all the earth signs on public recognition and fame. Even they need validation a lot more than the others, but they're also the most egocentric earth sign that is the most confident in themselves. So it's not like they need this like Leo, where they need the validation and the respect of others to stay emotionally like secure in themselves. They need it more because they need this sense of accomplishment. They need to know that they are doing something worthwhile, something practical, and they're pursuing their highest potential in their life. Um, but they do definitely need a lot more sort of respect of the wider world. They need to have a high social position. They need to be looked up to, sort of thing. They need to be in this authoritative sort of position. They are the father archetype of the zodiac, and the Cancer's the mother archetype. So they are kind of fatherly. They need this sort of status where people look up to them and kind of go to them for life lessons and advice. That's kind of this craving for recognition that they have inside of them, especially with the sun in Capricorn. Moon does too, but I think the moon has it more as in they just need respect in order to feel emotionally secure. Capricorn needs it because it feeds their ego if it's their sun. Um, but because of this, Mars in Capricorn is a perfect placement because Mars is its highest capacity because it is high, it's exalted, it's highly energetic. But the only thing with that is that I feel like Capricorns could easily have a problem where they neglect their family relationships because obviously they're opposite to Cancer, and Cancer is so much about home and family that they can neglect the more professional, practical areas of life. Capricorn is the opposite, so it's like they will throw themselves into the practical, professional aspects of life so much that they neglect their close personal relationships with family members, friends, acquaintances, even if their intimate connections they have with other people are separate to their work and like in conflict with their work for their time and their resources, they are going to focus on work. Like if it's work or family bonding time, unfortunately, they do tend to focus more on work. That is their highest priority, um, especially when actively coordinating this earthy energy. But I could see that being a problem for Capricorn in their personal lives is that they probably aren't very affectionate toward their close, intimate relationships with other people because they're too busy trying to be successful and control everyone else. Now, Leo, Scorpio, and Capricorn, I would say, are three of the most prominent power signs. They're the powerful signs, and they all want to control other people. Capricorn, it's quite obvious that they're bossy. It's quite obvious that they want to control. It's not as secretive and under wraps as Scorpio, but it's not as obvious as like the Leo. Obviously, they're not as boisterous with it. So it's like they have this need to control, but it's kind of obvious, but it's also not because it's restrained. They're an earth sign, so it's like I don't know. It's almost like they want to control, and it is quite obvious, but they also almost try and hide it as well. Um, but as I say, they want to be looked up to. They want everyone to respect them, and like they are the best person ever. They do have a pride and an ego and a god complex. It's not wounded as easily as the Leo's pride, but I would say a surefire way to piss off a Capricorn is to mess with their money or underpay them, even if it's not intentional, like it's a genuine accident. That will really annoy them. Um, and this is Moon, Sun, and Mars Capricorn. It will really annoy them if that happens. If you try and poach a job off them, if you are disrespecting their authority in the workplace, that will really annoy them. You question their judgment, you question their leadership skills, that will really annoy them. Um, and they can be very sort of, they don't always express that they're angry because they're stern about it. They don't lose their head over anger because sometimes anger's kind of below a Capricorn. Like they're too dignified to be angry all the time. They'd think it's not the right thing to do to like lose their head at people. So they kind of internalize anger, but they still feel it and want you to know it. So they're kind of like a stern, like a father. Like when a kid makes a mistake, they'll sigh at them and they'll be like, I'm disappointed in you. That heavy sort of disappointment. That's how Capricorn expresses anger. Now, to have Mercury Capricorn, now this has got this Saturn restriction and limitations again. These themes are there, obviously. So, with it being Mercury that's placed in Capricorn in your chart, you're going to be sort of this restriction, this limitation, and this restraint is going to be in your language. So, you probably won't actually speak very much or very often. You're not going to be expressive at all with your speech. You're actually going to restrain quite a lot of your thoughts. Half the time, you won't say anything, you won't assert your opinion unless, like, someone asks you for your advice in a practical matter, in which case you would definitely throw out your opinion. But Mercury Capricorn, you're going to be very grounded, very measured in your speech. You might be a bit slow with speech because you're thinking a lot. Capricorn, there is also this theme of being really, really self aware. They are very aware of themselves, um, even their emotions, although they do have an emotional disconnection. They're not very affectionate, like I said, with the Moon Capricorn placement, but they are very self-aware of their own character and they are very self-controlled. Capricorn finds it incredibly easy to control their urges, to control themselves, but because they have these levels of control so strongly and so they maintain them so easily, they have so much inhibition that they can control themselves so easily that they don't let themselves loose very often and just have fun because they're always trying to control themselves and be all kept together. And it can cause anxiety for them, but they don't express it because they're also not expressive. But Mercury Capricorn, you're just going to be quite slow, quite measured in speech. You're going to your thought processes and your cognizance is going to be very much. You need evidence to believe something. You're going to be skeptical with your speech, a little bit stern. You might talk down to people. That's that sort of thing. Venus Capricorn. Now this is a bit disastrous. I mean, Venus is not fallen like it is in Virgo. So it's not like a really bad placement. So I actually take back what I just said. It's not disastrous, but it's like you're going to be quite practical with love. Like after the honeymoon phase is over, you know, the more practical aspects of love, like who's going to bring in all the money, who's going to support the kids, who's going to provide the most, who's going to be the housewife, that sort of thing. Like obviously when you get married and you're in love and you're at the honeymoon phase, you're madly in love with someone, that's kind of represented by Leo, Aries, Sagittarius, Venuses, the excitement phase, the optimism phase. But then when it comes toward the more practical aspects of love, like who's going to pay the bills, who's going to be, you know, the breadwinner, the more serious aspects that come along with love and affection, that is earth sign Venuses, especially Capricorn and also Virgo Venus, Taurus, because they're ruled by Venus and Venus is happy there. They're actually very, very romantic. But the other two earth signs are quite hands on and they'll show their love not with affection. They won't say I love you all the time, especially not Capricorn. Capricorn is the least emotional earth sign, I would say. So they are the one who is sort of um the less showy with affection. Like they're not going to be like, oh look, I love my partner so much. When they propose to you, even it's going to be very traditional. It's not going to be a big drama, song and dance about it like Leo would be during a proposal. They'll probably just say, "Marry me," you know, would you marry me? Like they're not going to be boastful. They're not going to show off with that sort of thing. They're very reserved with that, and they want commitment. They're very, very serious about relationships. Like if they think that there's not a fair give and take, they will dump you. Like they're not hanging around. There's no messing around with Capricorn energy in general. They're very, very by the book. And they will not entertain someone who they do not like or they're not getting a fair treatment from. They can be patient though, and they can grow attached to people that they care about. So they can actually struggle to drop people out of their life, but eventually they will do it if the person hasn't changed their ways or if they're trying to restrain them or control them. Because although they're patient, they are very aware of like give and take dynamics in relationships and fairness in relationships, similar to Libra, but even more so because they're also an earth sign. And they just know if they're being not if they're giving more than they're getting, they will not stand for that and they will dump you much quicker than Libra would because they are also, I hate to say it, they're also less humanitarian. They're a bit less sort of like fair-minded. Like as soon they're very, very, very strict. As soon as they think that they are the only one putting in, you know, the major bulk of the effort, they will give up. But that's kind of that. So yeah, I think I got out most of what I wanted to say. Sorry, I did warn it was going to be long, but this is a very long video. It's like, yeah, that's kind of the whole thing of Capricorn. When they're not coordinating this sort of um, Earth and they're more neutral, then they can explore that more open-minded spiritual dimension that they have that most people don't see in them because they keep it so well hidden. But they can explore this side when they're more neutral, when they're not coordinating themselves so strongly. And then they can be more like carefree. I feel like opposite to most people, obviously you'll mature as you get older and get more serious. Capricorn's kind of the opposite. When they're young, they're very, very serious and they act mature and older than they are with their wisdom, with their behavior, their maturity level. As they get older and they achieve in life what they want to achieve, they can start to relax a bit more, go more easier on themselves, and then they actually get more light and carefree as they mature and as they get older. So that's what I see with Capricorn. Um, Capricorn, a real world example. I said in the Virgo video, one of the real world examples for them is like cement when you make concrete. When the cement is still wet, it hasn't set and dried yet. Obviously, it's fairly easy to mold it. You can mold it with your hands even. Like it's adaptable. You can change it into different shapes and patterns and all that sort of thing. Um, that's one of the real world examples I used to describe Virgo because I'm highlighting their mutable, adaptable sort of aspects that they have. Capricorn's kind of one when that same cement has dried and it has set and it becomes hard concrete. Obviously, then, unless you're breaking holes in it with like high powered tools or something, you cannot mold it. You can't get your hands and mold hard concrete, obviously, because nothing is going to happen. It's this solid floor under your feet. Any solid floor that keeps you grounded to the earth forcefully, that is Capricorn as a real world example. Also, because they're the sea goat, they want to climb the mountain until they get to the peak, the summit, the top of the mountain, which is the success in life that they want to achieve, the high social status. And on the way there, they'll patiently climb up the mountain as the sea goat. So you could also use a literal mountain in real life to describe Capricorn too, I guess you could say. It's hard, dense earth, it's heavy, it's not grass, it's not flowers, it's not trees, it's hard concrete, any hard surface which keeps you grounded, especially concrete, wood, hard, natural surfaces you find in nature. Mountain, maybe the trunk of a tree, I guess you could say, like the hard trunk, the wood of the tree. It's like, it's dense, it's hard, it's almost impenetrable, that sort of heavy aura. Capricorn does have a very controlled and heavy sort of aura. So they're another real world example. But thank you for listening through this really long video. Hope you enjoyed it. I'll see you next time.